The sound of polished boots echoed down the long marble corridor as Lieutenant Commander Arya Hale approached the chamber. Every step she took carried the weight of whispers that had been circulating through the base for weeks. "The new recruit's a woman," they said. "Not just any woman, a classified operative, personally cleared by command. Some said she was a transfer from a covert program. Others claimed she was the only survivor of an operation no one was supposed to know about." Now, as she walked toward the officers' assembly hall, those rumors hung thick in the air, heavier than the scent of starch and brass polish. Her blue flight suit, freshly pressed and marked with insignia no one recognized, made heads turn. She didn't seem to notice the stares. Her posture was upright, her expression calm, eyes forward, jaw tight, every movement controlled. Years of discipline had etched that stillness into her. When the double doors opened, the room fell silent. Dozens of uniformed men looked up from their seats. High-ranking officers sat at the long table up front, ribbons gleaming on their chests, eyes sharp and skeptical. Behind them, the flag hung heavy, motionless. The air inside the hall felt colder than the hallway she left behind. "Lieutenant Commander Arya Hale, reporting as ordered," she said, voice clear and even. At the center of the table sat Colonel Merrick, a man known for breaking more careers than he'd promoted. His jaw tightened as he rose, the medals on his uniform catching the light. He studied her for a long moment before returning the salute. The sound of his glove snapping against his temple echoed through the hall like a gavel. "At ease, Commander," he said finally. "You've caused quite a stir." Arya lowered her hand slowly, her eyes never leaving his. Around her, the other officers exchanged glances, curiosity, doubt, and a hint of resentment flickering across their faces. They weren't used to seeing someone like her standing there, not in that uniform, not with that calm authority. Colonel Merrick gestured to the empty chair at the end of the table. "You may sit." "I prefer to stand, sir," she replied. The colonel's brow lifted slightly. "Suit yourself." Behind her, a few younger officers shifted in their seats, whispering under their breath. She ignored them. Her attention was fixed on the colonel, though she could feel the weight of every eye in the room pressing against her. "This assembly," Merrick began, "was called to address your transfer from Task Force Valkyrie. Your records are incomplete." A murmur ran through the officers. Everyone had heard the name Valkyrie, a classified special operations unit rumored to have been disbanded after an operation went wrong overseas. No one had ever met anyone who served in it, until now. "With respect, sir," Arya said evenly, "my records are classified under direct order from Central Command." "That's convenient," Merrick replied dryly. "We don't take kindly to ghosts here, Commander. You're being assigned to our Joint Strategic Command, and if you're going to serve under my command, I expect transparency." Arya didn't blink. "Understood, sir. But with due respect, transparency goes both ways." The room fell into a stunned silence. No one had ever spoken to Colonel Merrick like that. A muscle twitched in his jaw, but instead of anger, there was something else in his eyes, curiosity. He leaned forward slightly. "You've got nerve, I'll give you that. Tell me, Commander, why transfer here? You could have stayed in whatever shadow unit you came from." Arya took a slow breath before answering. "Because, sir, your command needs people who have seen the kind of wars that don't make it into reports. And because I've already buried too many good soldiers to stay silent while others repeat their mistakes." Her words landed heavy, cutting through the tension like a blade. Even the whispers stopped. Merrick studied her for another long moment before straightening. "Noted," he said finally. Then, with a sharp motion, he saluted her once more. "Welcome to the team, Commander. Let's see if your reputation holds up under sunlight." She returned the salute. "Wouldn't have it any other way, sir." As she turned to leave, she could feel the eyes of every officer following her, some filled with admiration, others with skepticism, and a few with outright hostility. But Arya Hale didn't care. She had walked through worse storms than whispers and stares. Outside the hall, she paused for a brief moment, looking out through the tall windows where the late afternoon light painted the runway gold. Planes waited in perfect lines, engines silent but ready. Somewhere out there, a mission was already forming, and she had a feeling it would test everything she was. Behind her, the door closed with a metallic echo. Inside that sound was a promise, the calm before the kind of storm that would change everything. When Area Hale returned to the officers' quarters the next morning, the air was thick with judgment. Conversations stopped mid-sentence when she entered. Mugs of coffee froze halfway to lips. Men in uniform looked up from their tables, eyes narrowing, their expressions hovering somewhere between curiosity and challenge. Word of yesterday's meeting had spread faster than any official memo could. The classified transfer, the mystery commander, the woman who talked back to Merrick. In a place where reputation carried as much weight as rank, Arya had just made herself the most talked-about officer on base. She didn't let it show. She carried her tray through the mess hall, every step deliberate, every breath measured. The rhythmic scrape of her boots across the tile was the only sound she made. She sat alone at a corner table, facing the room, a habit she'd picked up from too many missions where the enemy could come from anywhere. Across the hall, Lieutenant Briggs, broad-shouldered, loud, and cocky, leaned toward his friends with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "A look at her," he muttered, his voice low but not low enough. "Blue flight suit, classified past, an attitude like she's running the place. Must be nice when the brass gives you a free pass." His words drew a few nervous chuckles from the others. Arya didn't move, but her ears caught every syllable. "Briggs," came a warning voice. Captain Duran, older and quieter, didn't look up from his coffee. "Leave it. You know Merrick's got eyes everywhere." Briggs shrugged. "Just saying what everyone's thinking. She walks in like she's a hero. Maybe she's hiding something. That did it." Arya rose slowly, her chair scraping lightly against the floor. The sound sliced through the murmur of conversation like a blade. She carried her tray to the return rack, then turned toward Briggs' table. Every head turned with her. "Lieutenant," she said evenly, stopping beside him, "if you have something to say about my record, you can say it to my face." Briggs smirked, though his bravado faltered under her stare. "Just talking, Commander. Didn't realize you were listening." "I was trained to listen," she replied, "even to the kind of noise that doesn't deserve attention." A few officers choked back laughter. Briggs' jaw tightened, color rising to his neck. He stood up, squaring his shoulders. "You think you're better than us. You just got here." "No," she said calmly. "I think I've seen things you haven't, and I've buried people you'll never know." The silence that followed was suffocating. Briggs' glare faltered for just a second, enough time for her to walk away. As she left the mess hall, the door opened, and Colonel Merrick stepped inside. He saw the tension instantly. His eyes flicked from Briggs to Arya, reading the scene like a man who'd seen this kind of challenge 100 times before. "Commander Hale," he said sharply, "walk with me." She followed him down the corridor, their boots echoing in unison. They stopped outside the strategy room, where a digital map flickered on the wall, zones, coordinates, red markers. "I heard there was some conversation in the mess," Merrick said, glancing at her. "Just clearing the air, sir." He smirked faintly. "You've got a way of doing that. You're making enemies fast." "Then they're the wrong kind of allies," she replied. Merrick's expression shifted, not disapproval, but something close to respect. "You remind me of someone I knew years ago," he said quietly. "He spoke like that too. Didn't end well for him. Maybe he didn't have the right team," Arya said. The colonel studied her for a moment, then opened the strategy room door. Inside, several officers stood at attention. "Commander Hale," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you'll be joining the next mission simulation. Let's see if your reputation has any truth to it." Her gaze swept across the room. Briggs was there, smirking again, along with Captain Duran and a few others who looked uncertain. "Yes, sir," she said. "Good." Merrick replied, "You'll lead the team." A ripple of disbelief went through the room. Briggs' smirk vanished. "With respect, sir, she hasn't trained with us. She doesn't even know our protocols." Merrick's voice hardened, then adapted to hers, dismissed. As the officers filed out, Arya caught Briggs' glare. She met it head-on, unflinching. She had led men tougher than him and buried better. When the room finally emptied, she stood by the map table, her reflection mirrored in the digital glow. Red mission markers pulsed faintly on the glass, one after another, like a heartbeat. She placed her hand against the screen, tracing the coordinates with her fingers. Tomorrow would be the test not of her skill, but of her control. She didn't need their approval. She just needed results. Outside, through the tall windows, the training field stretched beneath the morning sun, a field that would soon turn into her proving ground. And if the others wanted to see what she was made of, she'd show them. Every last one of them. The next morning dawned gray and sharp, the kind of morning that promised tests and consequences. The base training field stretched wide beneath the overcast sky, a maze of mud, obstacles, mock enemy stations, and smoke generators. It wasn't just a simulation. It was a battlefield designed to break the unprepared. Area Hale stood at the edge of the field, the chill wind tugging at the collar of her blue flight suit. Her teammates, 6 officers from the command's tactical division, gathered a few feet away, checking their gear and whispering among themselves. None of them met her eyes. Colonel Merrick stood nearby with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression unreadable. "You know the parameters," he said. "Neutralize all targets, retrieve the beacon, and extract the unit in under 40 minutes. You're the team leader. I'll be watching." Arya nodded once. "Understood, sir." "Let's see what you're made of, Commander," he added, his tone measured neither encouragement nor doubt, just a challenge. The buzzer blared. Smoke erupted across the field. The test had begun. Arya's voice cut through the static immediately. "Form up, 2-man sweep on the left perimeter, Duran, Briggs. That's you. Cole and Mayer, take the ridge for overwatch. I'll handle the front advance with Ellis." Briggs hesitated, his jaw tightening. "You're taking point. That's not protocol, Commander." "Protocol doesn't win battles," she said. "Follow your orders." The sharpness in her tone left no room for argument. Briggs swallowed his reply and fell into formation. They moved fast, crouching low through the fog. The simulated enemy, a series of moving drones programmed with thermal sensors, scanned the field. One wrong move and they'd trigger the hostile alert, ending the mission in failure. 2 bogies, 12 o'clock. Duran's voice came through the comms. "Patrol pattern, 30. Meter loop. Copy." Arya whispered. "Cole, take them out silently. 1 shot each." A pair of muffled pops cracked the air-suppressed rifle fire. 2 targets dropped instantly. The team froze, waiting for alarms. None came. "Clean kills." Cole reported. Arya allowed herself the faintest nod. "Move." They advanced deeper into the field. Every movement was precise. Methodical, a rhythm she had learned the hard way in real combat zones. But even here, she could feel the distrust simmering behind her. Briggs kept glancing at her back, his movements a beat behind the rest. Then came the mistake. A motion sensor hidden under loose gravel beeped softly, barely audible but unmistakable. Briggs froze, his boot hovering above it. "Don't move." Arya ordered immediately. Briggs' breath quickened. "What?" "Trip laser," she said, dropping to one knee. "Infrared line. Tilt your boot 30 degrees left." He hesitated, beads of sweat forming on his brow. The others watched, tense. Slowly, he followed her direction, and the red line of the laser came into view, faint in the haze. One wrong shift would have triggered a detonation. "Now step back," she said softly. "On my count. 3, 2, 1. Briggs moved and the sensor deactivated with a soft click. The whole team exhaled. He looked at her then, for the first time without defiance. You saw that through the fog. Trained for worse," she replied simply. "Keep moving." By the 20-minute mark, they reached the beacon zone, a mock enemy base guarded by moving turrets and drone patrols. Merrick watched from the command booth, eyes narrowed. Most teams never made it this far. Arya crouched behind cover, scanning the terrain. "Cole, give me a distraction. Smoke barrage on my mark." "Copy. Now." The smoke burst outward, covering the field in a dense gray curtain. Arya sprinted forward, sliding across the mud to the beacon post. She input the override code with lightning precision. The light turned green. "Beacon secured," she called. "Fall back to extraction." They ran through the last stretch, ducking under simulated gunfire and sprinting through the last obstacle. When they crossed the extraction line, the timer stopped. 36 minutes. The loudspeaker crackled. Simulation complete. The smoke began to clear. Merrick descended from the viewing platform, slow and deliberate. The rest of the officers on the sidelines were silent, stunned. 36 minutes, Merrick said, stopping in front of her. The last record was 47. Arya stood at attention, breathing steady despite the mud streaking her uniform. Team performed well, sir. Briggs stepped forward, still catching his breath. No, sir. She performed. We followed. A faint smirk tugged at Merrick's mouth. He looked at her for a long moment before giving a sharp salute. Commander Hale, welcome to my command. You just earned it. Arya returned the salute. Around them, the other officers did the same, not out of obligation, but respect. The silent stares from before had turned into something else entirely. As the team dispersed, Merrick leaned closer. You were right, he said quietly. We needed someone who's seen the kind of wars that don't make reports. Arya's eyes met his. Then let's make sure the next one ends better than the last. She turned toward the horizon, where the clouds were breaking, and a thin line of sunlight stretched across the runway, the first sign that this base and its soldiers were about to change forever.